Getting our friends together isn't as easy as it used to be. We get it. Life comes at you fast. But trust us, your pals are desperate for a good hang. And when they hear you stock the party with drinks from Drizzly, they'll be banging down your door. Let Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery, take care of the supplies. All you need is an excuse. It doesn't even have to be a good one. It's your dog's birthday. The loquats are finally ripe. Whatever. With Drizzly, you can compare prices on a massive selection of beer, wine, and spirits and get them delivered straight to your door, which means you can entice the crew to leave their houses without ever leaving yours. Whatever the occasion, download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com. Today. Must be 21 plus. Not available in all locations. Man, I wish they had Drizzly when I used to play D&D and Riffs. Maybe it's time for me to start again. Thanks, Drizzly.
Hey, it's my song. Let's sing it. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Come on, it's gonna be freaking awesome. You know the words. It's gonna be freaking awesome. That's it. Say, it's gonna be freaking awesome. Yeah!
Hey everybody, what's up? It's Jesse Blaze Snider, the coolest geek alive. I'm so glad you could be here with me today. I hope you've been following the journey through geek culture. These past few weeks, I've just kind of been trying to establish my perspective on geek culture, especially over these past 10 years, where geek culture has come into major prominence and then began to lapse as Hollywood has started to basically homogenize their process of making geek culture films to be exactly like their process of making everything else. And guess what? It's ruining the shit I love. And, today we're going to talk about Star Wars, and I got to say, full disclosure, I am not a huge Star Wars fan. I'm a big Star Wars fan because many of my best friends are Star Wars fans. Shout out to Aaron Sparrow, editor and writer extraordinaire. Aaron used to write the Darkwing Duck comic book and edit it. He's done a lot of great work. He's a great writer. He's a brilliant man, great geek. Really, really loves Star Wars, deep into the extended universe, the novels of Star Wars, the comic books. Some of the few comic books of Star Wars that I've ever actually read were all recommended by Aaron, and they were all really great. And he tells me stories all the time of the extended universe and things that they're not using. And whenever he does, I'm always like, wow, that sounds cool. Why not do that? Why aren't they doing that? And that's the first thing I want to say on behalf of the fans. The first mistake that they made, Disney, when they took on Star Wars, was they did not utilize the vast riches of stories that had been told for years with the supervision of George Lucas. George Lucas had been looking over these people's shoulders as they're making comic books and making novels and guiding something that fits within his vision of the world. The equivalent of if people were making extended universe stuff for Lord of the Rings and J.R.R. Tolkien was looking over their shoulder going, yeah, no, that's right. Good. Yep. I approve. How amazing is that? There's all these stories, and there are beloved stories and beloved characters and, beloved villains as well. Villains you love to hate or whatever you want to say. But just so many characters. I'm not a good person to name them because I haven't really gotten very deep into that stuff at all. I'm a Trekker. I'm a big Star Trek guy. But I think I've said before on this show, I like movies as a community experience and TV as a community experience. I like to enjoy things with people. I like being a part of the comic book community. If I find out that you read comics, I immediately feel like we're connected. Okay, we're connected. You love movies. You love music. Let's hang out. Let's talk. Let's have a good time. This is how I pick my people in life. And when I find out that my best friend's a big wrestling guy and I like wrestling a little bit, all right, well, I'll get into wrestling a little bit more so that when I get on the phone with my friend, I can say, hey, what's the latest and greatest on WWE? And I can feel it with him as he laments or is excited about whatever new thing is happening that's good or bad. And I get to be a part of that experience with my friends. I get to be a part of their joy and their sadness. And that's really why I will get into fandoms that aren't necessarily my own. So continuing that full disclosure thing, I've been sort of trying to get into Star Wars for a long time because I have so many good friends who are big Star Wars fans. But it wasn't until Rogue One, Disney's Star Wars Rogue One, that I was really sold on the movie. On Star Wars as a franchise. Like, I really fell in love with Rogue One. I think Gareth Edwards, I think it was the director, he had done the Godzilla movie a while back. He did a great job. The movie was beautiful looking. I love the casting, loved the characters, and that story was nice. It was small and it meant something. It was powerful. I really dug it. Actually, I really enjoyed the Andor series that just finished. It was one of my favorite things. I know people thought it was a little slow, and maybe it was a little slow, but it was meaningful. And that's what I want from stories. I want meaningful characters, meaningful situations, something to learn, something to think about. There was plenty to think about, plenty to learn from Andor. It was very cool. It was very interesting. And so was Rogue One. And in particular, bringing back to my friend Aaron, when Aaron had finished the movie, he said that he saw the blind wannabe Jedi as me, and his best friend with the gun as Aaron, and that I was faithfully going into battle with this positive mental attitude that's going to keep me safe. And Aaron's like, well, just in case that doesn't work, I'm going to bring a gun. and that made me love the movie even more. So I did get into Star Wars from that point on, and Clone Wars is great. I really like Clone Wars. I've been a little disappointed in the Bad Batch series, even though I like those characters. I like a lot of those stories, and I've been enjoying Mandalorian, although so much of just Star Wars being on my mind is how badly Mandalorian is tanking right now in season 3. Holy crap, it's like a different person is writing the show, even though it still says Jon Favreau. I don't believe it. I truly do not believe that the person writing current episodes of The Mandalorian is the same person who wrote the other ones. And in the recent episode, Jon Favreau literally has his Mandalorian insert vehicle, the one that they made an action figure with his face on it. They have his Mandalorian character overwhelmed and killed. And I can't help but think it's some sort of metaphor that Jon Favreau's going, sorry, I was overwhelmed by producer notes and I was killed. And I mean, this is the thing. This is the problem. Overwhelmed by producers' notes. Overwhelmed by the stupid Hollywood superficial machine. I chose comic books because they're not superficial. There's no pretty people in comic books. It's just drawings of people, representations of people, but they're not real people. I didn't choose Hollywood because I don't like all that pretty people bullcrap. I want real stuff, real ideas, things that have meaning to me. Not just a pretty face selling a stupid thing. So I put my skills into the world of comic books. A lot of people who write movies, or I should say, a lot of people who write comic books, some of them, that's not all of them, there's plenty of people like me who love comic books, but a lot of them, they chose comic books because they didn't feel like they were good enough to write movies or write TV. I know I'm good enough. I know that the majority of the comic book writers in this world are good enough and better because we're writing shorter form storytelling and we're having a faster experience at improving and getting better and better and better at our art form and what we do because we're in, month out. It's just a wonderful thing. You know, you sit there for months on end working on one screenplay. Let's see if we sold this one or sold that one. No, you're a comic book writer. Every month, comic book. Holy crap. The art just gets better and better. The artists just get better and better. The writers just get better and better because we're working. We're doing it. You know, our industry really is just so unsung. The comic book industry, we are some talented mother effers. I'm so proud of so many of the wonderful people that I've been exposed to in comics, and I'm so disappointed that those wonderful, brilliant voices have not been able to be empowered further and given a longer reach to the audience, and that so many of their stories are being just destroyed in the adaptation process and interpretation process, especially going on with Disney right now, and so many of these companies who are dropping the ball with the fans as they adjust things to make it more like modern Hollywood or some shit. I don't think that this is the right place. You know, just as I don't think that going on Twitter as a writer or a musician or a director and being very partisan about your political ideas, making it obvious that you're a left-leaner and you hate all right-leaners, or I'm a right-leaner and I don't agree with those left. Any position that you take like this, you are simply shooting yourself in the foot and telling half of the possible audience that you could reach and communicate with that you're not interested in communicating with them. They're the scum of the earth. What is that? I thought as artists, we were here to communicate. We were here to move the conversation forward. We were here to make people think about things and maybe change their minds in one way or another. But not just in one direction, in both directions. Giving a balanced view of things. Showing the dark, showing the light, showing that the bad guy isn't as bad as we thought he was. You know, everybody's got a reason. Everybody's got something driving them. And writers are the people who pull that information out and show it to us. And if we get shown that information in the right way, it endears us to heroes, it endears us to villains, and that's it. But it's a bipartisan process. You can't cut your audience in half and just preach to those who think just like you. It's really just destroys art, destroys the form. The form of art is polarization, left and right and left and right and left and right. You can't make art and just be left or just be right. You're fucking it up that way. It's the ebb and the flow and the seeing of both sides. That's it. That's the truth. That's when we learn something. That's when these myths and this geek culture stuff that we all love so much actually means something and actually can stand the test of time, stand on its own two legs. Anyway, I may have gone off the rails here, but I love fandom. I love fans. I love people who care, and people care about Star Wars. And when I was watching The Last Jedi, I watched it as a fan of fandom. I watched it as a fan of the people who love Star Wars, and I watched it trying to see it through their eyes, trying to see how they were going to feel about it. Also, I watched it as a writer from sort of a higher perspective where I was looking down at everything that was being done, and I was like, okay, Force Awakens remade the original Star Wars, basically beat for beat. I mean, it's the exact same movie, except for Luke is a girl living on her own who could already fight, and she can pilot, even though she's never left her home planet, and she's an expert mechanic, and I don't know where she learned any of these things from. Her parents are gone, but whatever. Okay, so it's just like Luke, except boy is she OP as F. Whatever, she's just rather flawless. It was a major complaint for most people. The audience of any movie, and please, like, don't boil any of the stuff that I'm going to say here, because I'm going to be commenting on a lot of stuff that's sort of shoehorned into this film. But this isn't about sexism. This isn't about racism. This is about making good art, making good stuff. Daisy Ridley's a perfectly serviceable actor. She's beautiful, seems like a beautiful person, pretty to look at. There's no reason why she couldn't have charmed us, and we've been sitting there going, oh man, I love that Daisy Ridley, she's so cool. But in order to do that, we need to know what a person wants, and then we need to see them taking active steps to get what they want. And honestly, like, even her search for her parents, which shows up in The Last Jedi, which we're going to talk about, that's not really present in the first movie. In the first movie, she's just kind of like, oh, things, life, the galaxy. Oh, this is so cool. I'm good at everything. Yeah, can I be your friend, Wookiee? I want to be your friend too. Like, she's just running around, joining up with the cause, but we don't really know what she wants or how she learned anything. We're not seeing her struggle. We're not seeing her grow as a character. These are things that endear us to a character, especially a young character. It's okay if you introduce some old character who's clearly been through it. You introduce us to some 15 to 20-year-old something, like, we want to see them earn it. We want to see them struggle. We all struggle to earn the things that we have. That's just sensical life. That's how life works. You struggle, you learn, you live and you learn. And from those hard lessons, we grow and we become better. And Rey's not really doing that in this movie. Okay, so anyway, as a writer and a fan of geek culture, I couldn't help but watch The Last Jedi with a higher awareness than most, because I was mostly looking at it through the eyes of the fans, and as a writer who understands how a trilogy is supposed to work story-wise, okay? So I was looking to the future. I was looking at the third movie as I was watching the second movie, because, Empire Strikes Back is the damn best Star Wars movies. It's satisfying by itself, but it sends you racing to that third film. Let's talk about a trilogy real quick. What is a trilogy? How does it work? In trilogy, 3 movies, okay? Traditionally speaking, the trilogy goes like this, and you can look at Lord of the Rings, you look at the original Star Wars. These are some of the best trilogies, so we'll just use those as example. But the opening film is standalone-ish, but leaves a really big door open for more. It establishes a world. Now, when you make a second movie in a trilogy, everything that was established the first time is supposed to be reinforced and deepened. Reinforced and deepened, okay? We reinforce what was introduced in the first movie, and we deepen all of these things. We make the characters that much more like themselves. We make the plot and stakes that much more meaningful and high and scary. And oh man, like we keep raising them stakes, not in like stupid ways, which I mean, they do a lot of stupid stake raising in this trilogy that Disney made. But the idea is that the stakes are raising, and they don't have to raise they just have to keep raising a little above the last thing. In fact, it's actually a big mistake to raise the stakes too high, because you skip over all of the space in between where you could have been ratcheting it up slowly and surely. So you have, reinforced and deepened everything that you did in the first movie with the second, and then the third movie comes along to put the whole thing to bed, to give a satisfying conclusion to everything that was set up and then deepened by the second film. And now here it is. Let's pay all of these things off. You've had 2 films to really feel X, Y, and Z, and now we're going to flip X, Y, and Z on their heads in this last act of this movie, and you're going to be so excited for it to all come to its thrilling conclusion. That is a trilogy. So let me tell you what Rian Johnson did in his stupid Star Wars movie. And hey, please, I don't hate The Last Jedi. In fact, The Last Jedi has some of my favorite Star Wars ideas that have ever been introduced to the franchise. But I could not enjoy that when I was watching it, because more than that, I was seeing overwhelming things that were completely undermining the trilogy, because Rian Johnson chose to walk backwards on, I don't know, man, maybe almost like all of the things that J.J. Abrams set up with the first movie. Every expectation that the audience had leaving The Force Awakens was flipped. So let me tell you some of the expectations we had. I rewatched The Force Awakens to kind of remind myself, right? So we're finishing The Force Awakens. We've got a budding romance with Rey and Finn. Goes nowhere. Snoke waiting in the wings as a big bad. And actually, wait, let me just say, the budding romance with Rey and Finn. Rey and Finn don't even see each other till like the end of the movie, and they force Finn to have kind of like a love interest that he has no interest in. It's very strange. Snoke is waiting in the wings as a big bad. He gets killed in this movie. They kill the big bad in the second movie. Oh my God. Talk about shooting yourself in the dick for movie number 3. You killed the big bad in the second film. Where do we go from here in terms of ratcheting the stakes? The only thing they could do was bring back Palpatine, which is the worst freaking idea ever. Okay, Snoke's waiting. Romance between Rey and Finn. Kylo Ren kills his father and is a young, petulant Vader. This is actually the one bit that is followed up in some good ways in Rian Johnson's movie, and I'll talk about it a little bit. I got it all break down. Also, stormtroopers have a bit of personality. There's a little bit of physical comedy. We see them sort of behaving as humans. There seems to be people under their armor. There's guy gets mad at Finn for deserting the First Order. He pulls out his like electric baton and they have a big fight. But it was motivated by, oh, you're a deserter. I'm gonna get you. That is showing a lot more character from stormtroopers than we'd ever seen before. That was really cool. It was one of my favorite things about The Force Awakens, was it was exploring an area of the world that I hadn't seen explored before. There's also some troopers who comically avoid Kylo when he's throwing a tantrum. And this suggests future continued investigation into the people under the armor. A very smart and clever promise to make to your audience, because they've been cosplaying as these nameless soldiers for years. They've literally been cosplaying as stormtroopers, and now you're giving life and personality to the stormtroopers. That's a great fucking idea, J.J. Abrams. What a great idea, Rian Johnson. Rian, why didn't you continue that? There were aspects of that story that could have been tied so great into your resistance, inspiring the enslaved and the downtrodden, which was my favorite part of The Last Jedi. It's the best part of the movie. And I'm gonna get into length about the things that I really liked about this movie, but I'm just gonna go in order after I get through these Force Awakens takeaways. So additionally, you've got Finn. He's Force sensitive. We see him use a lightsaber. We've got the promise of things to come. There's even more promise of things to come when it comes to Finn, because Finn is John Boyega. John Boyega is known for a movie which is one of my favorite movies of all time, actually. A brilliant, quippy little kind of low-budget sci-fi horror film called Attack the Block. And John Boyega is the star of it. And in the movie, he wields a samurai sword a couple times to kill these aliens. One of the kids just kind of happens to have a samurai sword, and they're collecting weapons to defend their neighborhood against these these aliens. And they're just like this gang of hooligans. And he's the leader. John Boyega is the leader of the hooligans. And he's great. His performance is great. It's meaningful. It's cool. He's badass. And when you saw the image of John Boyega holding a lightsaber in his hand, you were like, yeah, here we go. We got Sam Jackson, except he's in his prime. We got a nice young black man ready to kick some damn ass. Fuck yes. This is the diversity we want. What a great choice for an actor. I can't wait to see how this plays out. Well, anybody who saw The Last Jedi knows it doesn't go anywhere. And it doesn't go anywhere in The Rise of Skywalker either, other than him saying, Rey, I need to tell you something, and never telling Rey anything or the audience anything, so that we can go back and forth. Does he want to tell her that he's force sensitive? Does he want to tell her that he loves her? Both things are appropriate. Anyway, goes nowhere, but oh man, that would have been great. I love John Boyega. I love the Attack the Block film. They recently announced a sequel. Can't wait to watch the sequel. And actually, you know what? Not enough of you people have seen Attack the Block. I talk about this all the time with John Boyega and the lightsaber and what a big deal it was to somebody like me who had seen Attack the Block. I was like, yes. And everybody goes, what? Attack the Block? Watch Attack the Block. Tonight, your homework assignment is go and watch Attack the Block. You will thank me that I made you watch Attack the Block. I promise you. It's awesome. Okay, so yeah, Finn sensitive, doesn't have Finn versus Captain Phasma rivalry, unrequited rivalry. It's left for future films. Now, to be perfectly honest, I remember the fight with Captain Phasma like not even being a fight. I don't remember that Finn and Captain Phasma actually crossed swords at all. I just remember being like, that's it? That's the end of Captain Phasma? She falls through the floor and it's over? And watching the movie again, and I have watched it a few times, I guess, over the years, but I hadn't watched it in a while, and I was sort of surprised. I was like, oh, they do actually kind of fight in The Last Jedi, but it's a very unsatisfying fight for me. I don't know. I was super excited about that lady whose name I'm forgetting, but she's from Brienne of Tar from Game of Thrones. She's great. She's cool. She's got a great presence about her, physical presence, and I liked seeing her in the movie, and I wanted to see, I don't know, more depth from her, more realization of the possibilities that existed within her character, and we definitely don't get any of those, and Rian Johnson kills her relatively quickly in The Last Jedi, which I'm not really a fan of that. So he also is Finn okay? He got fucked up by Kylo. What will the toll of this battle be on his body? Basically nothing. He just wakes up at the beginning of the movie and it's like, hey, I'm fine. Where's everybody? Poe Dameron, he's brave and generally great at his job. Okay, in the first movie, The Force Awakens, Poe Dameron, he's brave, he's great at his job. That's it. We have no indication that he's a fucking idiot and that he's going to just be taking things too far and having pissing contests with his superiors in this second movie all throughout it, which is all that happens. And I mean, this kind of thing is like character assassination to Poe Dameron, character assassination to Holdo, who is his superior with the purple hair in the movie, because you're just so disappointed that the heroes are just fighting amongst themselves like assholes. It's just... for the birds, man. For the birds. I want to see my heroes act, I don't know, maybe like heroes. It'd be great. It'd be really nice. Really like to see some heroic heroes, perhaps. That would be nice. It'd be a nice thing to see. Also, there's suggestion of deeper exploration for many of the TIE fighters who have been casted with a number of diverse and interesting actors from popular shows like Heroes, Lost, and others. There's a bunch of characters kind of in the background that JJ cast for the show. And JJ, I'm not a big JJ Abrams fan. I must say, story-wise, his freaking mystery box challenge that he gives to all of his writers is for the fucking birds. Mystery boxes do not make a TV series or a film unless they can be paid off in a satisfying way. JJ has basically made his whole career on setting up interesting questions that are never given satisfying answers. The fuck is that, man? like it's like getting, I don't know, I was just gonna make like a sexual reference, but it's like getting, I don't know, getting to look at some yummy dessert, but you don't never get to eat it. Like, oh, look at that, yeah, oh, it's gone now. Oh, it wasn't really real in the first place. I can't have that. No, you can't have that. Can't have nice things when JJ's around. Oh my God, that Lost show killed me. I was like 3 or 4, I don't know if it was the 4th season or the 5th season, where they were simultaneously leaving the island in flashbacks and trying to get back to the Lost Island in the present day. We're trying to get back to the island. At the same time, I'm watching a whole season about how they are trying to leave the island. And I literally went, so this season just negates itself and I could just skip from the previous season to this one. And then when I started to get the idea that none of those interesting ideas that had been introduced in Lost, especially in the first season and the second season, were ever going to be resolved in any satisfying way, I was done. I bailed out. I stopped watching that show. And, for me, I try to avoid stuff that I know I'm not going to like. I don't like to be a hater. I don't like to go around shitting on things and talking crap. I do like the things and the types of things that I like to be better. So I push for better, but it's from a place of love. And I'm constantly trying to avoid being a naysayer. I don't like being a naysayer. Hopefully, I never get to that point. So let's see, just a couple more things about what is the ending of The Force Awakens here. There's a subtle suggestion that somehow Rey might be the daughter of Han and Leia, which would make her and Kylo brother and sister, like Luke and Leia before them. Interesting. So that's like a copy. But also, there's a subtle suggestion that it could be Luke is her father. Then it would be a tale of two cousins, Kylo and Rey being cousins. That's interesting. That's a little bit different from the previous tropes. And of course, there's the promise that if they do it right, we're going to get to hear somebody say, "I am your father." I mean, probably not with that same great James Earl Jones voice, but who cares? I am your father. Very classic Star Wars. We want to know who Rey's goddamn father is. Mystery box is implied to reveal that Rey's parents are characters we already know. Definitely heavily implied that her parents are going to matter to us as an audience who already cares about Star Wars. That was heavily implied. The story suggests by the end of the trilogy, we'll find out how she is tied to one of the main characters of the original trilogy. Yes. And obviously, for those of you who watched The Last Jedi, we don't find anything like that. The whole kind of point of the movie is that she's nobody. Her parents are nobody. But we'll get into that in just a second. So the movie ends with the Resistance destroying Starkiller Base and Rey defeating Kylo for now. The First Order is retreating, and Rey flies off to an island, handing Luke a lightsaber. She's already used it to defeat this film's Darth Vader. Okay, so that's the end of Force Awakens. Oh, and mind you, there's one other thing. There's a flashback. And in the flashback, sorry, not a flashback. It's like a psychic premonition. Flashback's the wrong word. Where she's seeing the future. We see a faceless Luke Skywalker before we see Luke at the end of the movie with R2-D2, and we see a cybernetic hand. That's how we know it's him. On a dark battlefield, promising a fight between Luke, Rey, and all of the Knights of Ren. The Knights of Ren was the one concept from the movie, from the get-go, that I was excited about. I was like, oh, cool. These bad guys look cool. I like their armors. This is neat. Can't wait to see them. You never see them. Ever. Not one of them. Just Kylo. No, none of them. None of the Knights of Ren. I mean, talk about that like showing me the yummy dessert I want to eat and then whoosh, gone. Rian doesn't do anything with it. And even when JJ comes back for the third one, he doesn't do anything with them. But anyway, the movie ends with the Resistance essentially winning. And now, when we get to The Last Jedi, and spoilers on, here we go, it's going to be The Last Jedi review time. Literally, in the opening crawl of the film, immediately, it invalidates the end of the previous movie. And I mean, you can maybe make some arguments of like how this is like fair to say, but the previous movie largely invalidated the previous, this says, as the previous movie, The Force Awakens, largely invalidated the previous movie, Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, which is true. Force Awakens invalidates Return of the Jedi by essentially going, everything that our heroes did and sacrificed in the previous movies don't really matter. And I believe that if they had gone with George Lucas's original plan, the story would have gone somewhere else that wouldn't have felt like we backtracked and nothing that Luke and Vader sacrificed meant anything. So now this movie, The Last Jedi, does the same thing. It says, quote, "The First Order reigns." I thought they just lost. "Having decimated the peaceful Republic." Well, they did destroy a number of planets. "Supreme Leader Snoke now deploys his merciless legions to seize military control of the galaxy." I really think there should have been some acknowledgement of the end of the movie that they had had a major victory or something. Really seemed like we had them on the runs last time. On the run last time. The runs. We got them on the runs. Sorry. Anyway, this is the first major swerve that Rian makes, and it is in the opening crawl of the film. Essentially, doesn't acknowledge the way the last movie ends and just starts where he wants to start. And so that's the beginning. And I want to say there's a quote from this movie that just sums it all up. Luke Skywalker, The Last Jedi, he says, quote, "This is not going to go the way you think." This whole movie did not go the way we think. And honestly, I think that's how it got greenlit in the first place. So my brother is a professional filmmaker, brilliant director, Blaze Snider. Shout out, love you, Cody. If you never had a chance to see my brother's short films like Fool's Day, which has been called one of the greatest short films of all time, I highly recommend it. And he made another longer short film called All That Remains, which is based on a comic book that me and my buddy Steve Kurth had started to create many years ago now. Both films are great, won many awards. And I've got to really be a part of Hollywood vicariously through him, in addition to the fact that I work in television, I work as a voiceover artist, I work as a host, and I know so many of these people. I know this industry, and I've been able to really see how the sausage is made. And knowing what the process probably was for taking pitches for The Last Jedi, the sequel to The Force Awakens, I'm going to tell you what I think is the truth of how The Last Jedi got greenlit. Kathleen Kennedy and the other high-up executives at Disney Star Wars, they took many meetings, meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting with different writers. 99% of these writers came in and pitched a satisfying continuation of this new trilogy. They moved the stories forward. They played more with Finn as a stormtrooper. They tried to make Rey earn it a little bit. They introduced Luke in some satisfying way that would tickle the fancy of people who really have grown up loving Luke, and that being their entry into fandom. And it was all great. It was all like, oh yeah, rah, 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 rah. And then what happened? Rian Johnson came in. And Rian, he doesn't exactly like Star Wars. And I have evidence. I've actually written about like 6 little marks of evidence that are little bits of writing that are in this movie that I believe present a piece of evidence that suggests that perhaps he doesn't exactly consider himself a fan of this material. And it's because of some of these little jokes and little pokes that he's making in the film. If these are things that he made, some of these things could come from other executives and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's his name on it. So I gotta put it to him. And I'm going to go through my evidence of me thinking that that he doesn't really like this stuff. But I believe that he went, you know what? I'm only going to do this if I can have fun with it. And he looked at the first movie and he went, you know what, dude? I am just going to reverse every convention set up by this movie. Everything that this movie sets up, everything that you think The Force Awakens has led you to, I'm just going to flip all of them. I'm going to flip them. And then he walks into the office and he's like, hello, Disney Star Wars. Let me pitch you on my Star Wars thing. And he starts pitching the movie. And he's like, and Luke takes the lightsaber and he throws it over his shoulder. And he's like, I want to be a Jedi. And Kathleen Kennedy and her executive friends sit there with their mouths open. This is unlike any of the pitches that we've been pitched. This is so interesting and so exciting. It's so different than all of the satisfying pitches that we've received from credible people who recognized what an audience would want from a follow-up to The Force Awakens. And instead of those people who all pitched something vaguely similar to each other that was rewarding for fans, instead we got Rian Johnson surprising us at every turn. Surprising us, surprise. Everything in this movie is like a surprise. I remember watching it just kind of going, what? Really? Huh. And then about halfway through the movie, I started to go, oh, fuck. They have seriously fucked up this trilogy. If this is the middle piece, and we're walking backwards on shit that was established in the first movie, we're supposed to be doubling down, reinforcing and deepening everything established in the first movie, not flipping everything over. Now we have to use the third movie to reinforce and double down on this shit, or what we actually did, use the third movie to flip everything back over and try to bring it back around to The Force Awakens, which is what actually happened. So that's my theory. My theory is the executives were blown away by how seemingly unique and interesting Rian Johnson's pitch was, because it's just so different. And that's why they thought it was going to be great. They thought we were going to love it. And to a certain degree, I think that's why some people actually did love it. And some people were surprised by it. And because of some of the really great things that I'm going to talk about in a little bit, because there are some really great things, some of my favorite things in Star Wars. So let's get into this shit, right? And I'm just going to start like kind of going through my notes here. I wrote a lot, but now, as anyone who knows me or has been listening long enough, I love humor, man. Love humor, love to laugh. Hated the opening scene of this movie, okay? Some types of jokes invalidate gravitas. And these big-ass Star Wars ships, they're scary. We're on a big, scary Star Wars ship, and we got this red-headed, evil leader of the ship, but he's comical. He's goofy and silly and over the top, not frightening at all. And we literally watch Poe Dameron mock and vex him while his underlings are snickering behind his back. This is the complete opposite of building up your bad guys and making your audience nervous for your heroes, which is really important if you plan to do something like, I don't know, kill the big scary bad guy looming in the background before the movie's even over, before the trilogy's even over. I mean, if you're going to do that, you really better have some backup bad guys. Hux is just declawed here. He's made to look like such a fool that we can't fear him as a character or as the leader of the First Order. And and this may be why JJ decided to have him as a turncoat in the third movie. Not that that was a good choice either. Continuing on, this now is the first time we see Poe called into question. Okay, it would appear that all of the characters in the last movie that didn't have to learn anything, of all the characters, Poe is the one who was most offensive to Rian Johnson, because he didn't exactly. I know he's got Rey training on the island, but her training is like. Her training is so silly after she's already beaten Kylo Ren at the end of the first movie with zero training, zero experience. She's held a lightsaber in her hand all of 5 minutes. Kylo Ren's been training. He is trained with Luke Skywalker, and she beat him. What? Like, it's just useless. It's all useless. You screwed it up with just making her too OP from the jump. What are you going to do? All right. So we've got... So Poe is getting, we got Leia's questioning him. He's disobeying a direct order from an original trilogy character. He hangs up on her on the comms. And, the big part of the movie is just this absurd pissing contest between Poe and his superiors, which make them all seem like petty assholes and not heroes for hope, sadly. Can I just say that personally, these giant bomber spaceships, they don't do it for me either. If you remember at the beginning of the movie, they've got one of the Rose Tico character, her sister is one of the bombers, and they're bombing they're in space dropping bombs. How do you drop bombs in space? This is based on like old school bombers that we had on Earth, but here on Earth we have something called gravity. Okay, so now Hux is now doing some Charlie Chaplin level physical comedy as he's being dragged around by Snoke. This is supposed to be scary. This is supposed to be frightening that somebody can just reach out from the ether and grab you with their mind and have their way with you. That's scary. Seeing him get tossed around like a ragdoll, like Loki got tossed around by the Hulk is a different thing. Darth Vader and the Sith, they're dark and scary. They're supposed to frighten us. The Hulk is fun. We're supposed to have fun. We're not supposed to be having fun with the Sith. We're supposed to be scared of them. And this does not help that cause at all. And also, this is the beginning, I think, maybe of some of the weird force powers. I don't know. I don't know the lore that well enough to know if all of these things are violations of the Jedi force powers law. But how this guy's not even on the ship. He's far away, and he's remotely dragging this guy around the ship. Can people do that in Star Wars? I don't know. You tell me in the comments. And actually, in fact, I keep saying comment and rate and do all these things. I appreciate a great rating. I appreciate a comment. I appreciate you subscribing, you following, whatever. I really do. But honestly, I want to hear from you guys, and it's really hard to kind of go from every podcasting platform and look at all these different comments and stuff. So if anybody has anything to say to me, you want to yell at me, you want to thank me, whatever. I mean, I prefer if you're nice. Please be nice. I'll be nice back. But just email me directly at jesseblaze@jessesnider.com. Okay? JESSEBLAZE @jessesnider.com. JesseBlazeSnider.com. All right? Yeah, drop me an email. I'd love to hear from you guys, especially anybody who's been listening to all the shows. If you've heard all the shows and you got any feedback from me or support from me, recording this by myself with nobody around to confirm that I've made a funny joke or tell me if I'm being stupid. Oh, it's really tough. You know, you put these things out and you're like, oh, I hope everybody likes it and likes me and appreciates where I'm coming from. I love this stuff and I just want to have a nice conversation with people that I like about the things that I love. And, you know, I like you if you like this stuff. And that's how it goes for me. Anyway, drop me an email, JesseBlaze@JesseSnider.com. All right, continuing on. And actually, let me see where I am because I might even turn this. I think I'm probably going to turn this into 2 episodes of the show because I mean, I'm just barely halfway through, but I really like this conversation. I think that The Last Jedi is something worth studying. As somebody who cares about the way things are handled in their adaptation process, it was something that was beloved by all. We're continuing it on, and we're losing the audience, and we're dividing the audience, and we're pissing them off. This is such a prime example. It's filled with things that fans don't appreciate. And I don't want to cut it down into a shorter episode where we don't quite get to talk about everything that there is to talk about. I haven't gotten to the most egregious sins of this film. I haven't gotten to the greatest heights of this film. And I haven't gotten to any of my evidence that suggests that Rian Johnson is not one of us. And there's plenty of evidence that Rian Johnson is not one of us outside of the film, but I believe in just trying not to listen to the bullshit that people say when they're on their freaking social media. I don't care what you have to say about on your social media. I care what you say in your art. And what he's saying in his art suggests he's not one of us. He's not a geek. And he's kind of mocking us in this film. So let me wrap this up right now. I'll say that I love you. Thank you for all the sweet comments and kind words towards my daughter Parker for her episode that we did last week. I'm super excited, actually, to reveal another episode with one of my other kids, Grace and Wayne, which will probably be the next, I don't know, 3 weeks away, maybe a month away or something like that. I'm going to do a few episodes by myself before I release it. And then eventually I'll release an episode with Cassidy. I haven't recorded that one yet, but I recorded the one with Grayson and it's super great. He is 8 years old. So we're going from a 6-year-old little girl to an 8-year-old little boy, all about Disney Plus, Star Wars, Marvel, Pixar, Disney animation, other stuff. Are they enjoying their Disney Plus experience? I want to know. And I got some great information out of them. So hopefully you'll enjoy the future episodes of that. And thank you so much for listening to Parker's episode and being sweet about my daughter. I think she's very cute and intelligent as well. Shout out to my father, D. Snider, on the Twitter. I just got onto Twitter again. I'm Coolest Geek JBS. I used to be on Twitter years ago from a lot of reality shows. I was on a singing competition called Rock the Cradle, and I wrote comics. I've been writing comics for years and years, so I was always participating in conversations like that. But I hate social media. I got off social media because I just didn't want to be focused on that. Like that was an important part of my life. And now I'm back, but I'm doing it in a clever way in conjunction with this show, with Coolest Geek Alive, so that I can maintain a conversation with the people that I'm talking to, meaning you, on this podcast. And, I just wanted to make myself available in a good way and be able to participate in some of the conversations that are being had in comics about comics. And, I thought Twitter was kind of maybe the best way to do that. But I used to have a lot of followers on Twitter. I don't know, at least like 10,000 or something like that. And I came back to 0. But my father very coolly put out a little shout out to me tweet, and I got 2,000 of probably my old followers from when I used to be on Twitter in a day. So shout out to you, Dad. Thanks so much for doing that for me. And he's been listening to the show. He's a geek himself. He's the one who got me into Star Trek. He's the one who got me into comic books. And I'm gonna have to talk at length about some of our stories behind the scenes of our fandom and experiencing things together, meeting Stan Lee, meeting Joe Quesada, various other premieres of movies and things that we've gotten to do over the years because we're all a big geek family. But anyway, shout out to you, Dad. Thank you for the help with the Twitter. My father is very active on his Twitter. You can find him at D. Snider. I think it's just at D Snider. And largely what I'm trying to do on my Twitter is carve out some space in the middle. Carve out some space of reason where we're not hating anybody. You know, we're not hating you because you've decided to be right. We're not hating you because you've decided to be left. We're not hating you because you've decided to be plaid or pink or purple. We don't care. I don't care. Everybody be who they want to be. I am a very, very, very unique snowflake. We all are. And that's perfectly cool with me. I want us all to be cool to each other. And I'm not seeing a lot of that in the world. I was actually very scared to kind of enter into this space and talk about these things because of how ugly the conversation is online. But you know, the angel on my shoulder says, if I can't have this conversation from a loving place, then who can? And isn't that sad that there's no heroes? There's nobody who can come along and be bipartisan and not piss everybody off on purpose. And it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. I'm a true geek. I love fandom, and I want to see a better fandom. So if you want to be a part of the better fandom and you're on Twitter, follow me, Coolest Geek JBS. And yeah, that's it. I think I'm just going to wrap this show right here. Tune in for part 2 next week, and I'm going to keep on recording it right now because I'm on a roll. I love this conversation. I really enjoy breaking down The Last Jedi because it does so many things well. It also does so many things so terribly. And then it inadvertently kind of on a small scale, it does a lot of things very foolishly. It doesn't realize how stupid it's being for some of the choices that it's making in terms of its long-term thinking. And that's why breaking it down is so great, because we can avoid making these mistakes in the future if people come to understand the way a trilogy is supposed to go, what an audience wants to see from a big tentpole franchise like this. And a lot of the things that are on display here, they're just not it. Anyway, I'm excited to continue this conversation with you all next week. Please drop me an email, jessyblaze@jessysnider.com. Like, share, subscribe, do all the things. Also, I'm so excited to report that my comic book fundraiser on Kickstarter for King of Kings, it hasn't gone live yet, but the page is there for you to sign up for notifications when it does. This book is a 10-year labor of love. Everybody owns a little piece of it. Everybody was also paid very well for their artwork and their inking and their coloring and their lettering. I just wanted to treat everybody right. I just wanted to do comics the way they should be done, the way Stan should have frickin' done him back in the day. You know, Jack Kirby and people like him got screwed, and so many other people have been getting screwed over the years, and I wanted to make a book the right way, caring about my community, caring about my co-creators, and that's what I set out to do. We got shadow banned on Indiegogo a little while ago, and I only found out around Christmas. I was really devastated that our book wasn't getting any traction. I literally only had donations from friends of mine, and I canceled the Indiegogo because it was literally just my friends' money. And I didn't want to just take money from my friends to do my book. I wanted the community of Indiegogo to see the merit in what we were doing and support our book. But nobody saw it because it was shadow banned. So round 2 for King of Kings, I'm getting on Kickstarter, and I really need your support, especially because our book, it's blasphemous. It's not meant to hurt anybody's feelings. We got a really nice warning at the beginning of the book. It's a comedy. It's just meant to make all religions equal. It's just meant to equalize religion a little bit. It's really kind of funny because this is some of the things that we're talking about and we're going to be talking about when we're talking about some of the best things about The Last Jedi and equalization of religious ideas, the idea that the Jedi don't own the Force. You know, the Jedi just use the Force. So does the Sith, you know, whatever else. But that idea of equalizing ideas about religion is very appealing to me. I don't believe in dogma and self-righteousness. I don't believe in projecting your religion and your beliefs onto other people. I believe in everybody's own personal free will, personal ideas about things, that everybody has the right to live and think however they want to think. And that's what this book is about. It's just about sort of challenging ideas and looking at things in different ways so that maybe we learn something new from them. So if any of what I just said sounds interesting to you, please go to my Kickstarter, King of Kings #1 Under Comics, and join up. My co-writer and co-creator, Mark Polton, will be so grateful, as will all of our artists and all of our great collaborators like Aaron Sparrow, who helped edit the book. And, working for free, doing it because we love it. Anyway, I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. You guys are the best. See you next time. You've been listening to Coolest Geek Alive with me, your host, Jesse Blaze Snider. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more excellent geek culture content. Thanks for listening.
I'll play that. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Coolest alive. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Stand with your tribe. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Revenge of the Geeks. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Week after weeks. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Laughing with you. It's gonna be freaking awesome. And crying sometimes too. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Spilling it out. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Making you shout. I'm a genius. I got lyrics coming out my bum for days. You like that? It's a kazoo solo. Play that too. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Talking some shit. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Living legit. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Food in our mouth. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Get in the mouth. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Tell all your friends. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Call right or text. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Raising the bar. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Straight to the stars. It's gonna be freaking awesome. It's starting soon. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Passing the moon. It's gonna be freaking awesome. On with the show. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Ready, set, go. It's going to be freaking awesome. Freaking awesome. It's going to be freaking awesome. Just wait. You'll see. You'll all see.
Look for Starbucks coffee in a grocery store near you, then sit back and enjoy the exceptional taste of Starbucks at home.